Hi, I've done some videos, and to date my videos have concentrated on birds and or wildlife. And one of my favorite subjects is taking pictures of waterfalls. I just love to take pictures of waterfalls. We just got back from 3 weeks on Vancouver Island, and that's a perfect place to do waterfalls. It seems like there's a waterfall around every corner. And so we had the opportunity to go do lots of hiking and shoot lots of waterfalls. Now, if you want to get those nice silky looking waterfall look that you see, traditionally it means carrying a backpack with a tripod and some ND filters. So when I like to go out, there's what I carry. I carry my OM1 with my 12 to 40, no backpack, no tripod, and I can get that silky look that I want to get with just this handheld. So that's what I'm going to show in this video, is how I use the features that the OM1 camera has to be able to get the nice silky waterfalls and still do it handheld, and just makes your trip much easier without any extra weight. So hiking is a pleasure.
Okay, so the easiest way to get silky water is to lower your shutter speed, and I like to try and shoot around half a second with fast flowing water like this. The image stabilization of Olympus cameras is really good, and you will have no problem hand holding it half a second. In order to get half a second, I close down my aperture to f16 and I drop my ISO to 64. That's an extended range. And if I just make this a little bigger so you can see it better, just be aware when you drop to extended range, you can lose dynamic range. Not a problem here. I think that it works just fine. The other one that people say is if you go to f16, you're going to get lens diffraction. Don't go there. And I printed this one 11 by 14. Lots of people have looked at it. Nobody's ever complimented. I've had compliments. Nobody's ever commented that it has lens diffraction. So don't be afraid to push your f-stop, your ISO, whatever you need to do to get that shutter speed in around a half a second. Now the next one I'm going to show, you can see that I'm actually around a half a second again. In this case, I was only f6.3. I didn't want to go open up the aperture any more than that because I wanted to have depth of field with this, and my ISO had to actually go up to 640 in order to get that shutter speed. Now, when I do bring this one up a little bit bigger, so when you get around half a second on fast flowing water, again, nice and silky, no problems, not hard to do at all. This one, in fact, I tried to use some of the features like Hi-Rez, and they take a little bit longer, and that was a problem here because this water was running so fast that there was spray. You can actually, if you look in there, you can see the spray coming off of the waterfall. It was getting onto my lens, and so I actually had to back away from the waterfall, clean my lens, and go up and take my picture as quick as I could. And half a second was about as long as I could shoot without getting my lens covered with water drops. You can look down in the bottom of the picture and it looks like you're actually getting some mist already onto the lens. So again, fast flowing water like this, if you can get your shutter speed somewhere around half a second, you'll get nice silky water and it'll look good. And again, Olympus cameras, not a challenge to use slow shutter speeds like that. Okay, with the new OM1, they have actually assigned Hi-Rez. This is a Hi-Rez symbol to the record button. So in photographic mode, by default, all you have to do is press this button, and on the back screen you'll see this high-res symbol come on, and it means you're shooting in high res. If you look over here too, I have 50 megapixels, so this is handheld going ORF going to card 1, JPEG going to card 2. So again, this shows you that high res is on. Do make sure to turn it off when you're not using it. Birds in high res don't work very well. So why would you use high res? So if you look at this image, and I'll just put it full screen so you can see it a little bit better. And so this one, this is the ORI that comes when you shoot high res. So when you shoot high res, it takes multiple shots and combines them in camera, but it also puts one normal, what would be a normal ORF on the camera card as well, only it's called ORI, O-R-I. Now, I'll go back out and I'll show you. So what I do is I rename it and I put it OR with a small f because the Hi-Rez one has a capital F. If you leave it as an ORI, it will not be recognized by Lightroom and it won't open. So I rename it so that you can open it and have a look at it. Now, you look at it here and you see that the water's not soft. Not a bad picture, but in here, not soft as well. This is where, when you shoot high res, the water becomes soft, and it's soft in here, so just a more attractive picture. And so that's why I use high res. I will also show you, though, one of the other advantages is that I have chosen the sky there, and I have increased dynamic range, and I can pull a lot more out of the sky because I used high res. So high res is really easy to use, works very, very quickly on the OM1, and so I do use it wherever I can. So now I'm going to show you when you need to use live ND. Now, to my knowledge, Olympus OMD cameras are the only ones that have this feature called live ND. Some people think it's a gimmick. You could create the same effect by carrying around a tripod and some filters. But with this, I'm getting a 10-second equivalent to a 10-second shutter speed. And yes, you do have to hold the camera steady for 10 seconds, but it's still, it's multiple images and it's easier to do than you think, and I will show you how to do it. In this case, the maximum ISO in live ND, just be aware, is 800, and this was in deep shadows and fairly dark, so I could only get an aperture of f5.0. If I tried to go for 8 or 9 to get greater depth of field, my time was starting to get too high. So I like to keep it somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds, and even that is difficult to hold. Now, what does this do for you? I'm going to just take this to full screen, and you can see I have really nice silky water. This water coming down was causing ripples in the water here. Now at a 10-second exposure, it is just absolutely smooth that water out. You get these beautiful reflections in the water. And I know you can't get this effect with high res, and I don't believe there's any other technique other than carrying a tripod and filters with you. And as I said in my opening remarks, I just like to hike without those kind of things. So this is the same waterfall, but it's from the side. And so just wanted to point out, do realize that this is a long exposure. And so I have some ghosting in the leaves up here on the right-hand side. It wasn't really windy, but there was just a little air movement and the leaves were wiggling a little bit. And so with a 10-second exposure, you're going to get that ghosting. So I just moved in a little closer and I just tried to eliminate some of the leaves on the very right-hand side. I'd probably crop this in a little bit to get rid of a few more, and waited for the wind to die down and did this shot again. And then you can use this 10-second exposure. So this is where live ND really works. Now this is a live ND, again a very low flow rate, and I'm just going to show you here. This one is a high res shot. So I just took one. How does it going to work? And if you look at the bottom, there is still some ripples in the water. I do have silky water there kinda, but it does not look like this. And so this, when you have really low flow rates like this, the only way you're going to get an effect like this is to use a neutral density filter in a tripod or use live ND in an Olympus or OMD camera. So what I'm going to show you now is how to use live ND on a OM1 camera. So when you do this, the very first thing that you need to do is engage handheld assist and make sure it's turned on. So you find that in the menu. This is a menu from the back of my camera. So in the camera 1 position, all the way over to the right hand side, and it needs to be turned on. So what is handheld assist? So you see that you get this little box here, and there's a dot in the middle and 2 little dots on the side. And so what I've done here is I've actually deliberately tipped my camera down, and so that dot is moved out of the middle. I've rotated a little bit, so rotated it, and those lines get thicker and they move from the center. So What your goal is to keep that dot in the center. If you tip it up or down, it will move up or down, side to side, it'll move side to side. And these little dots will get thicker and move up or down as you rotate your camera. So I've actually engaged Live ND in this image that you're seeing. I press the button, and so the camera blacks out. The only way you can hold this camera steady for 10 seconds handheld is to use this assist here. And what will happen is you'll see this moving around on you, but as long as you're keeping it relatively close to the center, and you'll see that these will, it's impossible not to get a little bit of rotation in there, but if you keep them pretty close to the center all of the time, then you'll get a good image. Otherwise, your image will be blurry. Now, just a tip here, I always try and sit down either on the ground or on a log or something. I try not to stand, because you stand and it's pretty hard to hold a camera for 10 seconds. So I do whatever I need to do to brace myself, and this handheld assist is just a beautiful feature. I'd love to see in the comments, I think this is an OM system exclusive. I don't believe there's any other camera system has this assist in here. If you know otherwise, I'd love to hear about it, because I don't think there is. Now, the next thing you need to do is turn on Live ND shooting. So you find that in the menu in camera position 2. These are computational modes, and this is Live ND. So what you do then is you go in there, you turn it on. One of the things I would recommend is you turn off this live view simulation, and what happens there is you can sort of see what the image would look like. Now, if your camera was locked down on a tripod, you'd see just the water moving. But if you're hand holding, you're always got a little movement. You just get a blurry image. And I don't find it to be much of an advantage. So definitely turn that one off if you do handheld shooting. And then you turn on your Live ND. Now, the next thing to do is you choose the ND number, and you can go from anywhere from ND2 to ND64. And so what do you choose here? And I'm just going to go to the next image to give you an idea. And so please excuse the quality. This is just, again, a picture of the back of my camera when it's pointed at my computer screen. And you can see that with this Live ND, 64 is turned on right now. With this amount of light, I would have a 15-second exposure at f5.6. Minus 0.3, and I'm going to just a little tip. I usually have it about minus 0.3 or minus 0.7 when I'm doing waterfalls, because the water is quite bright, everything else is dark. So you'll blow out your waterfalls, so you usually do want a little bit negative there. My ISO here is 200. Well, 15 seconds is a little too long, so you got to change something. So things that you can do, I could up the ISO. I don't want to go below 5.6, because then I don't have enough depth of field. I'd actually prefer 8 or 9. So I could go up on the ISO to 800. Remember that Live ND, that's the maximum that you have available to you, is ISO 800. That would bring down this shutter speed. But another way to do it, you see I'm ND 64. Well, all I'd need to do is go from 64 down to ND 16 or ND 8, and I would get that shutter speed in the range that I want. So that's how you decide which one of these ND numbers that you're going to choose. The second thing that helps you decide this is how fast the water is flowing. So on here I said I like to have about a 5 to 10 second exposure, but it depends on how slow this water here, you can't see it in the picture, but is really, really slow. So in that case, I would go for the 10 seconds, or as long as I want to hand hold it. If I have one of those thundering waterfalls that you saw earlier on, I may not use any Live ND, or at the very least, I would want to get my shutter speed down to half a second to 1 second in Live ND. So again, I would need to choose one of the lower numbers in here. If the water is kind of intermediate, then I might want to go from 3, 4, or 5 seconds. So this shutter speed, Silky Waterfalls is all about shutter speed and choosing the right shutter speed. And in fact, take lots of images and change that so that you get back to your computer and you choose what's best for you. So up and down the Live ND number in order to get the shutter speed that you want here. Okay, so in my wrap-up, just want to emphasize, so you see a waterfall like this. This one was actually taken using Live ND because it's got a low water flow. But I probably took 10, 15 different pictures, moved around different angles, did adjust the shutter speeds to get to where I wanted to be. And so that would be one of my recommendations. Just take lots and lots of pictures. So this is a live ND shot. This one's also using live ND, and you can see that it's just smoothed out the water there nicely. This one as well. This one was the Hi-Rez one. I showed it earlier, and you can see it's got the ripples in the water, so it's not bad. If you would have noticed, I could pull back the highlights here a little bit better than I could on the one, so that is one of the advantages. Again, Hi-Rez, live ND. This one was using no live ND or Hi-Rez. This was just a thundering waterfall, and in fact, this one, lots of people go to see this one, and it is quite impressive, but it's not one you can get a very good picture of. This is one of my favorites, and again, this is a live ND shot. And this was just a walk to one of the hikes, and this is what we got to see on our hike, and so just beautiful, beautiful country and a live ND shot. This one, again, as I pointed out, was using nothing. This one was also using just shutter speed, no live ND, no Hi-Rez. This one was Hi-Rez, and it was really dark in here, and if I had to do this one over, I would actually do it with 2 photographs, because you see, even with Hi-Rez, I'm blowing out in the waterfall here, so I should have taken one that was really, really dark that wasn't blown out, and then another one and combined them. This one was Hi-Rez. This is not a waterfall, but it just shows the country a little bit. This was live ND. Again, not a waterfall, but just shows the country a little bit. This one was out in the Tofino coast, and so again, of course, not a waterfall, but just show. I did use the burst mode in shooting this one, so I was shooting at 25 frames a second, and so as the water came in, I just started shooting, and that way you're able to get the splash the way you want it. This is a live ND shot. A live ND shot. This one, water was quite fierce, so there's nothing being used here. And again, there's a little bit of water in here, but not a waterfall, and just goes to show what the countryside was like there. And so if you get the chance to go out to Vancouver Island, you'll get some beautiful hiking in, and if you love shooting waterfalls, there's no shortage for you to shoot. We can go back probably for 3 or 4 years and spend a few weeks there, and we'll never run out of waterfalls. I hope this video helps you with your technique if you're trying to shoot waterfalls. And again, the OM1 camera, just an amazing tool to be able to do this with.